Hi, I'd like to welcome you to my home, and I'm going to go over the textbook for this class. This is a new edition, and we are now on the 4th edition. I've gone from the 2nd to the 3rd and now the 4th, and this is by far the better of the 3 texts. I wanted to let you know, Louisa actually let the cat out of the bag. I probably wouldn't have said much, but I wrote the foreword to this text, and that came about because I was asking Dr. Gordon when the next text was going to come out, and he responded with, "We still have some editing to do, and it will be out for the 2014 year," and indeed it is. So I asked him if I could help him with anything, and he says, "Well, I still need a foreword." And so I said, "Well, I can do that." And so I consented to write the foreword for this. And that by itself was a long process, because I didn't hear from him for a long time. And then I went ahead and wrote it. So the foreword is indeed from me, and I'm pleased with it. It was just kind of an accidental thing, so that's how it all came about. I wanted to go through the chapters in this text. There are some changes, and so I just wanted to point out what we have now. And there aren't many books to review for this class. As a matter of fact, there's only one other, and this by far exceeds it. So I am going to go ahead and take you through this text. Most people start out saying, "Oh no, I have to read history," but what they find is that this really fits in with what they wanted to know. So I'll be happy to hear from you on what you think of this new text. History and Growth of Career and Technical Education, and this is the new. It is blue. It's no longer green. If you have a green text, you have the wrong edition. I'm sorry. This is blue, and it is the 4th edition. How did it all get started? And that's where we start in this text. Most of it came from Europe, and what they were trying to do with the guilds and training over in Europe. The first chapter is all about how it got started, and then we move on to the second chapter, chapter 1, chapter 2. I'm going to use the table of contents. You may want to look at the table of contents also. So here, chapter 2 are the leaders and the philosophers, and what all came with the thinking of how this got started, and why just academics wasn't filling the bill in those days either. So I wanted to let you know that I'm very fond of philosophy, and so I take a strong look at philosophy and give you an opportunity to look into the philosophy of career and technical education. Now in chapter 3, I have kind of a script in front of me so I don't lose track. Chapter 3, this is where most students go, "Wow, that's kind of cool." And so, and you might look for that. The impact of the land-grant institutions, and some of the, then we get into some of the legislation, which you'll have to know a bit about. Let me tell you right now that this comes with a disc, and the disc, I don't think I will use it because I never used the questions directly from the text. So most of my questions are directly from the chapter summaries. So there's a big hint for you, and you'll be able to search the chapter summaries. Please don't skip the reading. I have to tell you that. So now we are on chapter 3 with the land grants, and then we move on into the legislative history, and factors influencing CTE development. And it goes into great detail, and this is a lot of legislation, but it really gives you a background for what's happening in today's Perkins legislation. You'll need to know some of the dates, and Appendix B is a great source for having them in order and kind of a concise area for finding answers. And then we go to Chapter 5 with history in the changing workforce. Moving over to Chapter 6, the women came in and changed the entire culture of the need for training and for the culture of the workforce. So that's it's an interesting chapter. Chapter 7 is about special needs and the populations that have special accommodations and things that teachers are responsible to do for them and to make sure that they have are successful. This will give you some perspective on the Disabilities Act and our responsibility as teachers. Chapter 8. CTE instructional programs and the teachers that teach them. It covers secondary areas of study. Have you ever noticed that there's a broad spectrum of all programs that can be held under the CTE umbrella? Well, there's a reason. I've been in forensic classes, I've been in fire and emergency services classes, I've been in culinary classes, I've been in all kinds of classes. So the whole emphasis is that these are bringing the latest technology and services up to date with industry standards. All right, so in Chapter 9, this is a chapter that we will not be covering, and it will be covered in your leadership course, and that will be during the summer, a 3-day quick lesson on leadership, not only from the perspective of student leadership, but also from being a teacher and having a leadership role. Skipping Chapter 9. During our program, you will have the opportunity, and it will be mentioned, that there is work-based learning course, where that is a separate certification. And it means that when someone in the school district can give credit to students that go out and say work at McDonald's and gain valuable work experience, they can get credit for that in the high schools. And so be sure to understand that there's a course that would help you understand that better. Another sideline that is mentioned briefly is advisory committees. CTE has specialized funding for the programs, and that comes from business and industry. In order to keep tabs on that, we bring in advisors so that we can have the latest industry standards in our courses. Chapter 10. Now this chapter I have struggled a little bit with, because its perception is that the workforce is made up of older folks that are retiring and moving out of the workforce. And my emphasis for the workforce is that what do we do as teachers for bringing students into the workforce, and what do they need to know? So I'm cutting off part of this chapter, and we'll just drop in at page 305. There will be instructions for Chapter 10. I think that what he says on a particular few pages is pretty good. All right, so Chapter 11, globalization, and you might also think about environmental issues that would be supported in that view also. So we look into the future and globalization of each of the courses that we are teaching in the 21st century and how to bring that view to our students. All right, so issues and trends. We take some time with this, and I also bring in recent legislative funding as a discussion that we will listen to a guest speaker, and that guest speaker is Mariana Graheen. She was the former CTE director at Highline, and now she has moved to the state and is working there. And she also goes and sits on the national CTE committees and speaks at the in Congress also. Now, so where are we? We are on issues and trends impacting the growth and future of CTE. That is all about ensuring that we have a competitive workforce. And so what does a high school teacher have to do with the workforce? We'll cover that. And I have a separate discussion going on about that. Well, that's it. It's all about the future. This entire text is about the future, even though we're reading history and philosophy. All right. I hope that this has helped with your text and how to understand it, and maybe even study for it. All right. The quizzes, there are 3 quizzes, and they, again, I'll say, are based on the chapter summaries. All right. That's a wrap. Bye.